Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer. Businesses are retooling fulfillment operations, from warehouses to omnichannel, to meet new demand amid unprecedented labor shortages. 3PLs, retailers, B2B distributors, and others are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems to adapt and scale. 6 River Systems Fulfillment Execution System is an integrated solution that combines intelligent, cloud-based software and automation, including its autonomous mobile robot, AMR, Chuck. No costly or disruptive infrastructure changes, fast and easy associate training, and integrations with other warehouse execution solutions allow operations to meet labor challenges, increase efficiency, and enhance customer engagement. Go to www.6river.com to learn more. Go to www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And today we have a special Father's Day episode. I'm very happy about this episode. It's going to be very exciting. Happy Father's Day first to all the fathers out there. And we are going to be joined by a father and two-son duo here from DCL Logistics. We're going to be joined by Norman Tu. He is the CEO and founder at DCL Logistics. Dave Tu, who is the president there, and Brian Tu, who is the CRO. So they're going to talk to us a little bit about the history of DCL, who is now celebrating 40 years in the business. And we're going to talk a little bit about the evolution, how they've kind of grown over those 40 years, and what they think is next for the future and the next 40 years. So Norman, Brian, Dave, welcome to the show. I think Brian's going to start off here and give us a little brief overview of DCL.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Kevin. So DCL Logistics, like you said, is celebrating 40 years of business, started June 1982, so almost 40 years to this month. We are a full-service fulfillment company, so we handle direct-to-consumer fulfillment, retail fulfillment, and then other kind of value-added services to support our customers' kind of just growth needs. We have a total of 6 facilities in the United States. We're shipping anywhere between 30 to 70,000 direct-to-consumer orders a day and fulfilling kind of millions of units a month to retailers.
All right, great. And obviously, you guys have been growing a lot and, recently opening a new facility close by me, sort of, actually, in York, PA. I'm over in New Jersey. So it's great to see that expansion. And I think, the last time we had DCL on the podcast, we talked a little bit about the evolution, but I think we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the history because it's been an interesting transformation that you guys have had from the start of your business and what you were kind of servicing, I guess you would say, and how it's transformed to where it is now. So I think we're going to get a little bit of history here from Dad, right? From Norman. So Norman, you want to tell us a little bit about DCL and how you started it and kind of how it's grown since then?
Thank you very much, Kevin. Looking back today, we're in June, so I started back in 1982, June of 1982, 40 years ago. And prior to that, I graduated from college and at 22. So fast forward, I was probably 35, 36. I have worked in Silicon Valley for Xerox and HP, and they were fine companies. But I was at the point in my life, you might say, I have gone through some midlife crisis where I just felt that I could do more than just working for a corporation. Mm-hmm. And I felt unfulfilled. So I was exploring opportunities other than working for HP. I was working for HP then, and I was there for about 9 years then, about that time. Okay. For 5 years in Xerox, and another 9 years with HP. And I was exploring opportunities in buying franchise, McDonald's franchise, Burger King franchise. I was looking at also exploring maybe being an insurance agent as well. Just be kind of having a small business for myself. But at that time when we were exploring, I had a number of people at what I worked for that left HP to start a software company. That was in the very embryo, very beginning of the software revolution. They were writing software in the garage. Okay. And one of the things, talking to my friend that have left, is say, hey, I'm selling my software during the day and I'm copying this at night. So I thought, hey, I could come up with a service that I could leverage all my expertise in HP, where I was a software kind of guru, and I could develop software to copy this, and I could provide that service. So that was a genesis of how the company got this. It's called Disk Copy Lab at that time. Obviously, it's gone through some evolution in that time. But in the very beginning, we'll do a few hundred floppy disks, and they become a few thousand, become a few 100,000. Mm-hmm. And from 1982 to 1992, in the zenith of the software duplication business, I did 60 million floppies. 60 million floppies.
Wow.
And that was a lot. And so there was a tremendous growth in the business and the industry in the software manufacturing business growing. Obviously, during that 10 years of 15 years, we added other services, warehouse, assembly, fulfillment, and logistics. But I also knew at that time that things were changing. Internet was coming. Right. And software being electronically downloaded. CD came into being. So instead of duplicating 10 floppy and distribute to a Microsoft Office with 10 floppy, they're not doing one CD. So I knew that business was going to go away. Okay. So in the late 1990s, I realized I have to do work to reinvent myself. So that was the beginning of the transformation. I say, well, what do I do best that I could transfer my expertise, from software manufacturing to another business? And one of the areas that I was very good at was distribution software, shipping software. So I applied those expertise, and reinvented the software. And a new company was born from Disk Copy Lab to DCL Logistics. And fast forward today, now 40 years later, it took about 10 years of transformation to do that. And we have now in the last 5 years gained a lot of momentum. Like Brian said, we have now 6 facilities, we're in the right space. In the pandemic 3 years ago, people are ordering more online. So the e-commerce space is very hot space. But one of the things I'm excited about is I have 2 capable persons, 2 sons, Dave and Brian, who's going to be able to take our culture, our values, and implement those what we have learned for the last 30 years, 35, 40 years, and implement and execute a new business, which is now in the DCL Logistics business. And there's a great deal of opportunity going forward, and I'm excited about the future that's in front of us. That's in a brief kind of a synopsis of kind of where we are, where we were before, and where we're going.
We'll be back after a quick break. You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, great. And it's great to hear that evolution. And we're going to talk a little bit more a little later about how you actually feel about your sons. But I do want to take a step back. And I think it's pretty interesting because the business, just from a business case perspective, you start out duplicating floppy disks, right? And I think for some of our younger listeners, like, we would probably have to explain what a floppy disk is to them, yes. Right? So it's really interesting how you were able to pivot and figure out a different side of the business and then grow your business from there. And I think that a lot of people and a lot of businesses right now are, especially you touched on the pandemic there, a lot of companies who were doing maybe just strictly B2B business now need to get into e-commerce just to kind of stay alive and survive. So I'm curious, from your perspective, as you kind of had to pivot and evolve into where you are now, I mean, how did you really recognize in the marketplace that it was time to make this pivot and make this change? I think that advice would really be well received by the listeners.
Well, that's an interesting question, a good question, and I thought about that. I think I just remember back in 1992 when I was on the second floor of a production area. There was 200 loaders running 24/7, duplicating millions of discs. And I was making maybe a penny or 3 or 4 pennies a disc. I was making money. It was like a slot machine. And what I realized at that time, even though the business was very good, that I knew this is going to go away. Yeah. There's going to be new technology that's going to happen. So rather than taking the money and putting it in the bank, and one of the things I commit myself to doing is that I have to reinvest in the future. Now, in 1992, I have a list of my competitor. There's 50 competitors in this business that competes in the business. As you know, Microsoft was outsourcing software manufacturing to people like us, and there's a lot of people jumping into it because the barrier to entry was very, very low. In now today, in 1992 and today, I'm the only survivor. And I think one of the things that I did differently was that I asked myself, what can I take what I learned in the software business and transform the business to something that the future, the people I could use that expertise for other businesses. Okay. Talking to some of my competitors that I compete with, and we have associations, a lot of them had just resigned to the fact that, hey, I'm going to milk this as long as I can, and I'm going to walk away from this, because we all knew that was going to go away.
Right.
Okay. And Microsoft has already stated that they are going to sell their Microsoft Office online. Now you could buy Microsoft online. You literally get a key code. You pay your $295, and they download the stuff. Okay, and they were not willing. I think a lot of them were just resigned to the fact they were not willing to make the investment in the future. And I took the different approach and said, you know what? I just need to reinvest in terms of logistics and invest in e-factory in a web-based platform which we developed, right? We got to invest into warehouse now. 4 of the 5 warehouses that we have is owned by DCL Logistics. Right. Those are the type of investment that I made back into the company. Now, I did say it wasn't easy by any means, because the people in the marketplace, there's a perception and they put you in the box. Because I will go to GoPro, for example, which is a client of ours.
Right.
And they'll say, well, I'm looking for a logistic company to distribute a GoPro product, for example, and I'm not looking for a software manufacturing company. But even though I could do the same thing as a logistic company, so those are the things that I had to overcome. It took a long time to change that perception that we're a legitimate player in the logistic business. And I think today I really feel that we are a player.
Right.
And people take us seriously, and we have a good reputation. But it's a slow transformation. Okay, it's a very painful transformation because I have to make up the lost revenue. All the revenue I built up until 1992, 95, because the business started dying off toward the end of in the beginning of 2000.
Okay.
And I have to make all that software business, all the software revenue that we got from Symantec and Autodesk and Microsoft, and get new business, replacing all that business.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, and it's incredible to hear, I mean, how you did that evolution, and the fact that, like you said, you're the last one standing of the 50 competitors you mentioned you had there. I mean, it's pretty great, and it's great to see how you guys have been able to evolve over these 40 years and now be this thriving business, which is essentially pretty different from the original business, but you're able to make it happen. So definitely kudos to you. And now, over the 40 years, now you've brought in the next generation of the family as well, right? So tell us a little bit about, how does it feel to be able to be, working with Brian and Dave, your sons, and have the family involved, and hopefully, have it continue well into the future?
I think people makes a difference. And I think one thing I learned working for HP is that people is our asset. If you look at our business, we have warehouse as an asset. We have people, and it's the people that runs. We're a service business, and I think we had great people, and I'm very fortunate to have very capable sons to take it over. But one of the things I did in the very beginning, which looking back, that really helped me, is I put together a great board. Okay, and the CFO, 3Com, Chris Paisley. There's a Professor Dennis Coleman from Stanford that was on the board. Okay. Bill Jacobson, which is in the high-tech business in marketing, was on the board. So I brought an outside board to advise me, to help me direct. So because you're going to make mistakes, okay? And when you bring good people, and I ran my business like a public company. To help me. It's not about the Tooth family and how much we can enrich ourselves. It's all about, how can we really manage the business like a public company with accountability. My salary was approved by the board, for example, even though it's a private company, it's owned by me or by the family. Yeah. I want to make myself accountable for it, and I can use them as a sounding board when we make some difficult decisions. And one of the big decisions, which I'm glad I did not make, was that, as you remember, when there's a transformation from floppy to CD. Right. You remember when the CD? Well, we were ready to spend a lot of a fortune for us at that time, about a CD stamping system and clean room, and to get the equipment to build the facilities, about $10 million. That's everything we had. And we were ready to get into that. And said, the question is, should we be into that business? And we were ready to jump in. If I had jumped into that, it would have bankrupted the company, because that became commoditized. Yeah. And I'm glad I did not do that. So those are type of things that having good people to advise you will really help you navigate through the business, trials and tribulations as you navigate. And I have good people to help me navigate through those trails, you might say.
All right, that's great to hear, and definitely great advice as well, as having that team around you that can help you. And I think it's pretty interesting. You mentioned having this board to hold you accountable personally, even though essentially it's your company, and you could do what you want, essentially. But the fact that you're willing to open yourself up to that accountability, and like you said, even your salary is approved by the board, I think is a pretty smart way to go. And obviously it's worked for you. So we talked a little bit about your feelings about passing things on into the next generation and beyond, and how things have grown from your perspective. So since the last time we had DCL on the podcast, there's been a lot of change in the world, just in general, we could say. I guess that's a little bit of an understatement, but a lot of things have changed, and obviously a lot has put a huge spotlight on supply chain, from shortages and just the ever, I guess, presence of supply chain in everyday lives. People are more aware of it now than ever, and you mentioned, I think e-commerce has ramped up a lot as well. So I guess I'll open this up to you guys. How has these changes in the last couple of years really impacted the business?
The issues and challenges in the supply chain are all over the press, as you know. Mm-hmm. And obviously, as a last mile fulfillment provider, kind of omni-channel, where we're the hub of inventory, we feel it because we're kind of the last point in the supply chain. So there's a lot of pressure on us, and we're going to feel it because our customers are feeling it. And I think you're right, Kevin. You mentioned shortages and inventory challenges. It's a real challenge. There's a chip shortage in the world, and a large percentage of our customer base is technology products, and we have customers that are short in inventory, and they got a heavy back order situation. But not only in tech, but I think in all products, it could be very obscure kind of raw materials that go in products. So we feel it across multiple industries, across multiple customers that we have in our building. But I think, our culture is one, being in Silicon Valley, we have a culture of kind of agility and flexibleness, because we've been working with startups for 40 years.
Right.
So we've seen the peaks and valleys of these startups. We've seen companies raise, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars and not ship one product. And we've seen companies, not raise very much money, and they became like the hottest thing, and essentially going overnight from very low order volume to thousands of orders a day. And so that's kind of the culture that we're used to. So it's important that we have a culture of nimbleness and agility. And today, with all the issues that are going on in the world, especially in supply chain, we have to be super agile for our customers. And I don't think Brian touched on this, but we're a fulfillment company, a 3PL, but we don't have thousands of customers. We essentially have maybe 100 or less customers or brands that we work with. So our objective is really to give them super serve our customers with really good customer support and operational project management. And we want to make sure that we still have that ability to scale with our customers. So we don't want to, there's a lot of demand for, new customers are popping up every day, a lot of venture money going into it. There's no shortage of demand for brands or clients that need to fulfill something. But we want to be very careful that, we are able to, scale with our customers and not compromise on the quality of our service to them.
Very interesting, and it's interesting that you mentioned there how you don't have tons and tons of customers. You have about 100 customers, and so I mean on that aspect, since you guys seem very thoughtful about everything you do, incredibly well thought out, which I think probably stems from Norman. It sounds like, but with that being said, I mean, are you sort of also kind of vetting your customers and qualifying them in a sense to be able to fit into this model that you've created of kind of super serving them and making sure that they're a good fit for you guys as well?
Yeah, I'll let Brian answer that, but we as an executive team, we're very thoughtful about kind of filtering or kind of determining what kind of clients that we want to work with. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a very careful balancing act between, we want to standardize the process for our customers as much as possible, right, but we want to be flexible enough to customize our processes for their needs as well. So it is a careful and delicate balancing act that we have to have. so we put a lot of thought into the type of customers that we work with and the type of industries that we work with as well. And I'll maybe let Brian kind of go a little bit deeper into that like thought process when we vet, kind of the brands we work with.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I think it is a very kind of calculated process and methodical process when kind of talking to potential customers. We understand that we offer a very unique service, so we really focus on quality, service, and adaptability, but at scale.
Okay.
And we really want to identify those partners that kind of value those things. It's not about, may not be about just cost and things of that nature. So it's really looking for merchants that we feel like we could grow with long term. Our average customer stays with us for 7 years. And we actually have some customers that have been with us for greater than 30 years. I can name, there's 2 that come on top of my head that have been with us for over 30 years.
Wow.
So that's not uncommon where customers stay with us for an extended period of time. And I think it's that type of partnership that helps both companies grow. Is we there's a vested interest on both sides to support their growth. We truly understand their business, so we can adapt to it. And so it's kind of trial and tribulation. It's never perfect. We do our best. We only bring a handful of new customers on a year.
Okay.
And we slowed that down substantially, actually, over the last few years because of the pandemic. And we wanted to allow our existing customers the ability to grow and breathe without compromising quality. So we purposely, and by design, and the nice thing about being a privately held company is that there's no pressure to grow at all costs. We grew based off of our existing customers' needs, and we chose to go down the path of like, let's super serve and make sure that our existing customers will grow. And our reputation has always been kind of everything. Like we have a very small sales team. We don't do a lot of kind of new pitches. It's just more of word of mouth, and that's kind of the best quality kind of leads that we get is based off of reputation in the market. And we've done that for the last 40 years.
In fact, Brian and Kevin, the customer that Brian was talking about, I closed that account was 38 years. So the company's been around for 40 years. We had the company meetings, and I went to the drawer before the meeting, and the badge says number 1. So I was first employee, you might say, but the customer has been with me 38 years after 40 years history. So the customers stay up with us a long time, and our philosophy is that it's really hard to get a customer, and I think a lot of companies make the mistake of once they close the account, they kind of go on trying to close another account, ignore the customer, and that should not be the case. I think it's so hard to get the customer, and what you want to do is work with them, nurture them, grow with them, and that's so much easier in terms of customer acquisition, because a lot of company they get customers, and then the customers stay and they're unhappy and they're leaving the back door. So you constantly have to kind of replace the customer, and I think that's a wrong strategy. It's like get the customer and keep that customer, and hopefully for life.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there. I mean, it certainly goes to the old saying of quality over quantity, right? And obviously it's worked for you guys, and I think it's a testament to what you've built, Norman, and how you've been able to, like you said, you've had this customer for 38 years, and now it's continuing on, and it's gone through all the evolutions of the business with you as well, and I think that's certainly a great thing. So it's really interesting to hear a little more about your culture and how you've built this to be able to be customer centric, because I think it is a lot of high churn in a sense in some of the 3PL world. It's just kind of like, how can we get more customers and just keep rapidly expanding, and the fact that you guys have taken a little bit of a different approach, I think is really a good thing, and it kind of shows the quality that you're providing, and also the services that you're able to give to these customers are at a high level. So it's a really great thing. So we've talked a little bit about kind of the history and the evolution and what you guys have been seeing over the past couple years. So I'm curious to get into a little bit of maybe from both sides here, from dad's side and also from the son's side here. How is it working with the family, and how has it been to kind of be growing this business together now as you're all very much involved?
I could take an initial reaction to that.
Sure.
I would say that I think both Dave and I come from unique backgrounds. So Dave was in banking and finance, investment banking, and I spent the majority of my career, the last 20 years, in advertising and kind of technology. So we bring a different perspective, and we bring our own kind of unique strengths and value to the business. So I think coming into it with that type of experience gave us a better understanding and a bigger picture of what we were trying to accomplish long term as a company, as an executive team. I think it might be different if we grew up within the business straight out of college. We both worked for the business, and I think that wasn't the case. So I think we all respect our own strengths and weaknesses, and we play off that. There's no ego. It's Norman's founded the business along with my mother Antonia and my uncle David, and we value their feedback and opinion because they've been there. They've done it for 30 plus years. And then Dave and I come with a unique perspective of very, very just because we understand the new generation of how merchants work, how omni-channel works, last mile delivery, and we also understand like just based off our background, like fundraising, understanding how kind of the evolution of merchants and sellers is far different than it was 30 years ago.
Right.
So we have to evolve our business to make sure we could service those needs. But in short, I think it's been a really fun experience. I've learned a lot. I think we work well together, and we play off each other's strengths, and we cover up each other's weaknesses. So I think it's like the perfect storm of kind of working together.
Okay, great. And what about you, Dave? Do you agree, or you're the total opposite?
Yeah, I completely concur with that, Kevin.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Brian joined the company 3 years ago. I've been at the company since 2007.
Okay.
So I'm a veteran, if you will, right? So it is great to have blood working for the company. Not only blood, but it's somebody who is very successful in his own career, who was very successful in his own career, which is far different than logistics. And it is amazing to see the leaps and bounds we've taken with Brian at the helm, kind of leading sales, marketing, and client services. So I'm having the most fun at the company than I've ever had before, because I can just focus on operations and finance and kind of making sure the wheels are turning in the business, and Brian can really, without having to necessarily worry about sales and marketing. Of course, I worry about all that stuff, but I know I have a very dependable and capable person on my right next to me as a partner. So it's great to have that. And then my father, as the chairman and CEO of the company, I mean, he brings a level of experience and insight that is essentially unmatched, right?
I can see that, yeah.
From Brian and I, right? So we really use them as a balance, as a sounding board. I think as an entrepreneur who started the business with his own hands and his own money, he bootstrapped the business. I think he brings a level of pragmatism and prudence to the business that I think we continually need to have as we're growing. I mean, the business is doing very well right now, but I also want to make sure that we always have a balance to the decisions we make. We're always trying to decide on if we should make this investment or that investment, if we should buy this facility, or should we get into this other business that requires a certain amount of investment. And I think my father is the one guy seeing the successes and the failures, both in kind of acquiring. We've had some failures, right? We've made some bad decisions when we post and essentially invested in some facilities that were not good investments, but so we learned from those. And I think Norman has been through that more than I have, so we really use them as a sounding board.
Very interesting, and it's great to hear from you guys and how you kind of have found the balance and work so well together. And I'm curious, Norman, since, like Brian mentioned, they didn't necessarily, go right to work at DCL. They kind of went on their own paths a little bit and did their own thing. So I'm curious from your perspective, how was it to have your sons kind of join the company and start to really work with you?
Well, you ask that question, brings a smile on my face. I'm just kind of thrilled and delighted, I guess, as a proud father, that they're able to step up, not only run the business, but grow the business and grow in a way that I think that needs to do to bring their own perspective, you might say. And I kind of memory serve me correctly back in 2007 when Dave was in graduate school in getting a master, and he was taking an entrepreneur class. I'm not sure he remembers this, but I think I have never in the beginning, kids, Brian, Dave, when they were young, they were working in the warehouse, doing summer jobs and putting this in an envelope and doing assembly work, and it was for them a job, and they went on to do other things, of course. But I never pushed them to work in the father's business. It was kind of my business, am I saying? They had their own career. But back in 2007, 2008, he went to spend a couple of years in London Business School. I think I like him on, and he called me and he and I had a long conversation. And he was curious about our dad's company. Mm-hmm. It was like, what's your margin? What's your strategy? What's your sales? What's your profitability? And we just spent a lot of time just talking about it. And he said, when I come back back from school, graduate, I want to join the company. And my response is that, you're not coming in as a founder's son, and you're not going to come in to be the vice president of the company. You're going to work from the bottom. You're going to earn your stripes, because I want people to respect you for who you are, not because you're the founder's son.
Yeah.
And he paid his dues. He demonstrated to me. He worked on different projects. We have always challenges on different things, and he came on and he rolled his sleeve. He worked in the marketing, he worked in the factory floor, he worked in production, sent him to Southern California for assignment to bring out new facilities and so on and so forth. So Dave earned his stripes, He's been with me a long time, so I'm just delighted that I think the company is really good hands. And I think I still very passionate about the business, and I like to give my voice, and sometimes they don't like to hear it. But those are things that I think is important. We're never going to agree on everything. Mm-hmm. They have their own vision about doing things. And I have some philosophy about how businesses run. For example, I'm very, very conservative, just because of my upbringing in terms of leveraging, in terms of borrowing, and those are the type of thing. And I'm instilled on them, what goes up comes down. When things comes down, we've got to be prepared for some tough times. And if you're highly leveraged, you're going to be vulnerable. So those are the type of thing we always have philosophical discussions, and those are, I believe, healthy discussions. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that we respect each other. I never impose my thing. I always try to explain my point of view. I think that's why I think the three of us, Dave and Brian and us, work well together so well. And because, as you know, family business is really hard to do. Most family business doesn't work. When the next generation comes in, there's a lot of infighting. And I like to say that we have a really healthy relationship, and we're all working for the same purpose. How do we successfully grow the business in a profitable way? Mm-hmm. Okay, not at all costs. Because I always tell them, we're not under pressure from the bank or venture capital to grow because we're going to go to IPO. We're going to grow it in a way that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So in a way, in the summary, is I'm really looking forward to working with Dave and Brian. And I think they will do fine. And I think the company is going to be in great hands. It's in good hands going forward.
And that's great to hear. And I mean, it's great that you guys are able to have what sounds like a really strong relationship, not only from a family perspective, but also from a working perspective as well. I think it's really interesting. So I'm actually curious. I want to ask both sides here. I think maybe I'll start with the sons here, Brian and Dave. I don't know which one of you want to go first here, but I'm curious. What is one thing that you've learned from your dad that kind of sticks out the most?
I think the thing that sticks out the most to me that we practice and is part of the DNA of the company, it is the company's passion for, one is the employees, and they're part of the family. And we talk about the generations of employees and team members and actual family members. The people that have really built the business are our employees, and we celebrated 40 years yesterday actually in a barbecue at all our facilities.
Oh, nice.
And the number of people that have been with the company for 20, 30 years is incredible. Really? And they've really, so that's one is take care of your own, and we consider our employees family. Number two is really service. Norman talked about it earlier about really we're a service business, and we really focus on providing that kind of white glove service to our customers. That has never changed, and I don't think that will ever change. As we care a lot about service, we care a lot about having relationships with our customers across the board. It's a very flat organization. We think about that all the time, and I think that's why our customers have been with us a long time, is because we do care up and down. And I guess the last thing is think like a startup. Norman has always talked about kind of the mentality of we need to think, be nimble. We need to adapt to the market. We need to adapt to our customers' needs. And that's played a critical role in the success of our customers and a critical role in the success of our business. So our customer success is our success. So those are the kind of three things that really stand out to me, and Norman has kind of talked about throughout my life and throughout kind of like my time around DCL, whether I was an employee or I was a kid playing in the warehouse. It's always been the same.
All right, great. And I think all three of those are really good. And I mean, it's just kind of just goes back to all the culture that you guys were talking about earlier as well. So what about you, Dave? Can you follow that up there with something?
Oh my, that's a tough act to follow, Kevin. I think I don't have three, but I have a couple. I would say I would agree with Brian on the customers. I think Norman, or my father, has always been super customer centric. So he obviously is very charismatic, and I think he's able to win a lot of customers, but I think not just winning the customers, but maintaining the customers and keeping them happy. So he's always had that mantra is we got to super serve the customers, and I think that ethos like runs throughout the company. The other thing is just the scrappiness. Norm will tell you, he carries in his wallet still today. I don't know when he wrote this note down in his wallet, but it says, "Just do it." Right?
Make it happen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Make it happen, and he probably has it in his pocket today. Make it happen. And I think he's not one to hide behind like emails and the red tape and hierarchy. He's just like, get it done. So that kind of entrepreneurial scrappiness, no matter how large we get, we always want to have that type of culture at the company. So we don't have a lot of red tape, and we believe that the scrappiness will leads to a competitive advantage for us. Right?
That's great.
So I'll never forget that. Yep.
Yeah, and I love the little make it happen note. I think that's a great thing. At first, though, you said just do it. I was like, did Norman come up with just do it for Nike? Wow, this guy doesn't stop. Yeah. All right, so very interesting to hear what you guys have learned from your father. But I'm curious, Norman. As the business has evolved and your sons have come into the business as well. I'm curious, what have you learned from your sons actually as they've gotten involved?
I think how smart they are, I guess I always treat them as my son, and I think one thing I have to learn. I guess I still love the business, and I still work at the business, and I think one thing is really observing them and start trusting them. Okay, in the not in the negative, in a positive way. It's like, okay, like let them. Sometimes I think it's so good. I know they make decisions which I may not agree upon. I think it's a wrong decision. And I grew up never have a mentor, and I like to think of myself as kind of a mentor to them because I have so much experience. I have 50 years, 40 years in the business, another 10, 15 years in the corporate world. So I have 55 years experience. I've seen a lot of bad decisions, but sometimes allow them to make a decision, even though I disagree. Yeah. And have a fail, maybe they can learn from that process and maybe come back and say, you're right, type of thing. But sometimes it's good to let them make those decisions. So it's all about transitioning, to me, is what I have learned. And I think the last thing is that I think by far I didn't realize, how, they're well educated. They work in the corporate world. They have a lot of experience, and they're smart. They have a very methodical way of coming to decisions, and they write well. They write better than I do. They run circle around me with Excel, PowerPoint. They talk better than I do, So they have all the values, and now I think I will say finally. One of the things that is really a ingredients that I think for success, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs, I see a lot of people who try to start business, is a drive and hunger. Okay, those are intangible. It had nothing to do with education. Had nothing to do with it. It's ability that every day you get up and that I want to make this happen. I'm just a drive and hunger, and that's intangible that make a company. I think it's very important to make a company successful. Or will make a company successful. So I believe they have those attributes, you might say, that drive and hunger, which is really very important to be successful.
And that's great to hear. I mean, definitely, some great business advice in there, but also some good parenting advice in there too. I think, from saying, let them make some wrong decisions sometimes. And I'm sure there's some scenarios on both sides where, it's kind of I told you so moment, right? So it's very, very great to hear how you guys have built this company and evolved over the 40 years and now made it such a family thing and created this culture that's so strong, that's resonating through not only your family but then to your extended family, which is your employees as well, and your customers even, it sounds like are like family as well, and you've created these solid relationships. So as we celebrate 40 years and we start to look to the future, what do you think DCL's next evolution will be, if you can share, or what do you have planned for the future?
Yeah, I mean, as far as DCL's future, I mean, from a family perspective, I got two young kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. So it remains to be seen, Kevin, whether or not my children are going to work at DCL. And I know Brian has 2 young kids as well, and he has another one on the way. But I'm hoping here in the next, the next decade, perhaps they could be employees at DCL and kind of spread their wings and cut their teeth a little bit like we did when we were young. Yeah. But I think business changes fast in the kind of the 3PL world that we live in right now. We're expanding to the East Coast. We haven't yet shipped any product. That's happening later this year. So this is going to be our 6th facility in the U.S. and we're looking beyond to expand to possibly more places in the U.S. as well as internationally. Do we have any concrete plans to do that yet? No. But I think in order for us to grow, we're going to have to do that. The other thing we always talk about is, anybody in our space, the biggest constraint to growth is really space.
Yeah.
It's really how much warehouse space do you have, how much square footage, how many pallet locations do you have, how much capacity. That's physical, right? That's physical. So, and you need to, the industrial real estate market is very tight right now, and so prices are increasing, skyrocketing in certain submarkets. So the question becomes is how do we continue to grow at our pace, but not necessarily need to, at a linear rate, take out as much square footage. So what other services can we provide our customers? What kind of value can we provide our customers in order for us to grow with them without the need to take out space continually? So those are always questions that we talk about at the board level and at our executive meetings. But time will tell here soon.
All right, very interesting, and it's interesting to hear too about the space thing, because obviously that's a huge topic of conversation, and I like that you guys are looking at it in a bit of a different way and seeing what other values can you add with the existing space that you have, and how can you make your service better without necessarily needing to be just dependent on having a gigantic footprint, but it's very interesting to see, and we look forward to seeing how you guys continue to grow the business, and definitely looking forward to the East Coast location opening. I know it's close by me, as I mentioned, so I would love to get inside there when it's ready to go and show it off. It was great to talk to you guys, talk to the whole family here on the podcast, and it was incredible insights from both sides, and it's great to see a company kind of be built like this and evolve the way that you guys have done. So Norman, definitely kudos to you on a great company, and also kudos to you on raising two great sons as well that can pass the torch and really carry on. So thank you guys very much for coming on the show. If people are interested in learning more about DCL, how can they do that?
Just go to dclcorp.com or follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter.
All right, great. And we'll put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well. So thank you once again to the three of you for your time on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.